before the fight began if I was going to win or lose. I knew that in the dressing room because I would look in the mirror. And if I saw Sugar Ray Leonard, I could beat Mike Tyson.
In boxing, champions fight for titles. But Sugar Ray Leonard fought for something deeper: hate. He used it to destroy the three greatest rivals of his time. This is the story of the Golden Boy who turned bitterness into boxing gold. The Golden Boy and his revenge. In the late 1970s, the boxing world was waiting for its next superstar, and it found him in Sugar Ray Leonard. Fresh off an Olympic gold medal in 1976, Leonard looked very charming wearing his boxing shorts. He was the dazzling, slick-moving American ideal, clean-cut, marketable, and fast with his hands. He was the Golden Boy, but the moment he set his sights on the welterweight division, he ran straight into his opposite, a man who carried the entire nation of Panama on his shoulders, Roberto Duran. Duran was the Stone, known as Hands of Stone, a fighter who didn't dance. He stalked. He lived to fight, a true brawler who came up the hard way. This wasn't just a fight between two great athletes. It was a cultural war. Duran looked at Leonard's Hollywood smile and Olympic pedigree and saw everything he despised. He made it publicly known that he thought Leonard was a pretty boy who had been handed everything. Duran's taunts were savage and personal, aimed at crushing Leonard's spirit before the first bell even rang. Leonard, who had never faced such intense psychological warfare, took the insults to heart. He desperately wanted to silence Duran, but he wanted to beat him at his own game even more. The stage was set for Montreal in June 1980. Leonard entered the ring ready to prove he was tough enough to trade blows with the Panamanian legend. He made the fatal mistake of dropping his usual speed and movement right away. Leonard went toe-to-toe, matching Duran in a tough, grinding fight. For 15 grueling rounds, the two men engaged in pure combat. But it was Duran's will and unrelenting pressure that won the night. When the scores were read, Leonard suffered his first professional loss. The feeling wasn't disappointment, but pure burning humiliation. Duran didn't just win the title, he owned Leonard's mind. The Panamanian spent the immediate aftermath savoring his victory, relentlessly mocking Leonard in the press. The loss created something toxic inside Sugar Ray. It wasn't enough to simply win the rematch. He needed to completely destroy Roberto Duran, mentally and emotionally. He wanted to reclaim not just his title, but his pride. The desire for revenge had been planted, and it would grow into the bitterest moment of both men's careers. Leonard now had a secret weapon, Duran's own aggression. What happened next wasn't a boxing match, but a carefully constructed trap. Wait until you see how Leonard turns that hate and humiliation into the most shocking ending in boxing history. A moment so bizarre it's still discussed today, known simply as no mas. The sting of that first loss to Duran was a poison that Sugar Ray Leonard carried. Everywhere. It wasn't just losing the belt. It was the public image of the Golden Boy being beaten and out-toughed by the street brawler. Leonard was furious, and that anger became his greatest weapon. He immediately demanded a rematch, but this time, he wouldn't make the same mistake. Leonard knew he couldn't beat Duran at brawling, but he could absolutely destroy him in the ring mentally. The preparation for their second meeting, just 5 months later in New Orleans, wasn't about strength. It was about mind games. Leonard spent months sharpening his speed, his defense, and his ability to move non-stop. He trained not to hit hard, but to hit fast and evade the retaliation. The plan was clear: frustrate Duran, make him look slow, and strip him of his usual calm. In the ring, Leonard was like a skilled conductor. He didn't just fight, he also teased. He used the well-known bolo punch, a swinging punch that looked harmless, just to showboat and disrespect the champion. He dropped his hands and wiggled his hips, essentially saying, "You can't catch me, and I'm not even trying." Duran, who lived and breathed for the fight, took the bait. He was desperate to land the knockout punch, but Leonard was a ghost. Duran chased, missed, and grew increasingly enraged, throwing wild punches and expending all his energy. By the middle rounds, the tension was unbearable. Duran was physically and mentally spent, a furious bull cornered by a dazzling matador. Then, in the 8th round, came the moment that shocked the world and became a permanent part of boxing folklore. Duran stopped. He turned his back to Leonard, walked toward the referee, and in Spanish, uttered the 2 infamous words, "No más, no more." He quit. The invincible Hands of Stone had surrendered, not because of a knockout punch, but because his spirit was broken. Leonard's revenge was complete. He didn't just win, but also humiliated Duran on a global stage, confirming that their hatred was real. Duran's reputation took a huge blow, and Leonard knew he had finally beaten the man he hated the most. But as intense as that rivalry was, another one was just starting to build slowly, full of anger. The upcoming fight with the middleweight champion who wouldn't accept Leonard's skill, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. The golden ego, breaking the king. While Leonard had won against Duran, a darker storm was gathering in the middleweight division. This wasn't the fiery, street-level hatred of Roberto Duran. This was a slow-burning scorn held by a man who felt the entire world had always looked past him. His name was Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and he was the undisputed king of the middleweights. Hagler was the exact opposite of Leonard. He was the scowling middleweight king, a relentless, hard-hitting boxer who showed the brutal and fierce nature of the sport. He was a workman who earned his crown through years of brutal labor, often fighting in boxing's less glamorous corners. Hagler looked at Leonard, the Olympic champion and media darling, and saw a fraud, a pretty boy, who had everything handed to him. Hagler was constantly frustrated by the media's focus on Leonard and the perception that he, Hagler, was not receiving the same respect and opportunities despite his complete dominance. This created resentment. To Hagler, Leonard was not his equal. He was just flashy. This feeling intensified when Leonard began what Hagler viewed as a cruel game. Leonard would frequently announce his intention to challenge Hagler for the middleweight crown, talk up the inevitable collision, and then, just as quickly, announce his retirement. These repeated teases, particularly after Leonard's first retirement due to a detached retina, fueled Hagler's quiet fury. He believed Leonard was actively avoiding him when he was in his absolute prime, using retirement as a way to escape the toughest challenge in boxing. This wasn't just about competition. It was a top champion feeling personally insulted by a flashy challenger who seemed to be in control of the story. The boxing world, too, was desperate for this dream that had become a reality matchup. It was the ultimate clash of styles and egos, the slick showman versus the brutal rock. Finally, in 1987, Leonard decided the time was right to come out of retirement and challenge Hagler. The long wait, the mind games, and the resentment had built a volcano of emotions. Hagler saw it as his chance not just to win, but to expose Leonard for the fraud he believed him to be. He wanted to crush Leonard and force the world to finally acknowledge his own superior greatness. Leonard, ever the master strategist, knew this was a massive risk, and he knew he could only win by using his mind. He didn't need to knock out Hagler. He just needed to find a way to make the proud king doubt himself, and the way Leonard set that trap would ultimately shatter Hagler's heart. By the time Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvelous Marvin Hagler finally stepped into the ring on April 6, 1987, the boxing world was divided. This fight was loaded with more ego and resentment than any other. Leonard had prepared for this moment for years, and he wasn't taking any chances. Before the contract was even signed, he used his star power to demand a set of rules tailor-made to exploit Hagler's known weaknesses. He insisted the fight be limited to 12 rounds instead of the championship 15, giving the older, slower haggler less time to grind him down. Leonard also forced the fighters to use 10-ounce gloves, which helped his speed while slightly dulling Hagler's power. These demands were pure pre-fight psychology, and they worked to get under the champion's skin before he even laced up his gloves. When the bell rang at Caesar's palace, it was a clash of philosophies. Hagler came out aggressive, switching to his orthodox stance, determined to prove his power. Leonard, on the other hand, was performing at an expert level. He wasn't there to trade blows, but to steal the fight. Leonard spent much of the early rounds on the move, using clever footwork and dazzling lateral movement. He would hit Hagler with blinding combinations, 3 or 4 punches that scored points, and then immediately dart out of range. This hit-and-run strategy was calculated to win rounds, not to hurt the middleweight king. Leonard was playing to the judges and the crowd, using his speed and style to confuse the relentless champion. Hagler, true to his nature, spent the fight as the aggressor, stalking Leonard across the canvas. He landed more of the solid, hard shots, particularly to Leonard's body. Most ringside observers and many of the television announcers felt that Hagler had landed the more meaningful blows and controlled the middle and late rounds. The champion never stopped pressing forward, trying to force Leonard into the brawl he was trying to avoid. But Leonard would always manage one final, spectacular flurry of punches in the last 30 seconds of each round, a strategy designed solely to grab the judge's attention and steal the round in the final moments. When the final bell sounded, the arena buzzed with a mix of excitement and confusion. No one knew who had won. Then came the shock. The judges returned a highly divisive split decision for Leonard. For Hagler, who had ruled the middleweight division for years, this wasn't just a loss. It felt like a deep betrayal by the boxing system and the man he already saw as a fake. He felt he had been robbed by the media darling who had gotten everything handed to him. The pain was so deep that Hagler, disgusted with the result and tired of Leonard's games, walked away from boxing forever. He refused to grant Leonard the satisfaction of a rematch, retiring instantly and relocating to Italy. The Hagler rivalry ended bitterly, an ultimate ego clash that could never be resolved. It was a rivalry fueled by hate and left broken by controversy. This intense and lasting hatred is very different from Leonard's third big rivalry with Thomas Hearns, the Hitman, where respect surprisingly won out in the end. Get ready to hear the story of two fighters who fought fiercely, but ended up as friends. The personal poison that defined the rivalries with Duran and Hagler vanished when Sugar Ray Leonard faced Thomas the Hitman Hearns. This rivalry wasn't driven by hatred or jealousy, but by the real, frightening danger each man represented to the other's career. Hearns was a nightmare to fight. He possessed immense height, a colossal reach, and a right hand so devastating it earned him the chilling nickname. Leonard knew, even before their first meeting, that Hearns was a genuine killer in the ring. As Leonard later recalled, he had immense respect for Hearns' power from the beginning. Their first showdown in September 1981, billed as The Showdown, was an epic war of skill and grit that pushed both champions to their absolute breaking point. Hearns used his long, snapping jab to build an early lead, swelling Leonard's eye and forcing the Golden Boy to fight a desperate battle. But Leonard, showing the toughness he had failed to use against Duran, fought through the pain. He came alive late in the fight, summoned by his trainer's now famous plea, "You're blowing it now, son." Leonard unleashed a furious attack, dropping Hearns and forcing the referee to stop the contest in the 14th round. It was an iconic win, but Leonard would later describe the fight as the closest thing to death he had ever experienced. A raw, intense experience like that often creates a special bond only true warriors can understand. 8 years later, in 1989, they met again for The War. This time, the personal stakes had shifted. It was less about malice and more about legacy. The rematch was another brutal affair, ending in a controversial split decision draw. Many ringside fans and reporters believed Hearns had done enough to win, and in the years that followed, Leonard himself openly admitted that he believed Hearns deserved the victory. This honest, high-profile acknowledgement of his opponent's excellence is something Leonard would never give to Hagler. The rivalry with Hearns ultimately became a powerful testament to their bond. Today, Leonard and Hearns are frequently seen together, not as bitter enemies, but as good friends who share the experience of pushing each other to greatness. Hearns has even attended Leonard's wedding and birthday parties, often sharing a smile and a good story. While Hearns still jokes about wanting one more fight, there is no animosity, no lingering scorn. This is the crucial difference. The hate that fueled the feuds with Duran and Hagler gave way to genuine respect with Hearns. This contrast is key, for it allows us to finally weigh which man Leonard truly hated the most, the one he humiliated, and the one who broke his spirit, or the one he befriended. The true measure of a king. The ability of Sugar Ray Leonard to transform hatred into motivation was undeniable. He needed the rage of Duran and the cold scorn of Hagler to fuel his biggest nights. But as we transition from the ring to the real world, the most critical question remains: why did the Golden Boy need to rely on such deep, venomous feelings just to be great? Why couldn't he simply rely on his spectacular talent? The answer is that the battles we saw in the ring were often a desperate reflection of the much darker war Leonard was fighting against himself. The pressures of being an American icon, the successor to Muhammad Ali's charisma, the embodiment of the clean-cut champion were immense. Leonard was flawless on camera and dazzling in the ring. But underneath the famous smile, he was struggling. The years of intense fame, the massive paydays, and the impossible expectations created a heavy burden. Leonard felt he had to maintain a pristine image that was simply unsustainable, and that pressure led to self-destructive choices. Leonard has since been candid about his years of struggle, particularly with substance and alcohol abuse during the height of the Four Kings era. This internal chaos fed directly into the intense personal nature of his ring battles. Addiction is a dark, self-centered kind of torment, and it often requires an external enemy to focus its energy. For Leonard, the mind games, the public taunts, and the need to utterly crush Duran and destabilize Hagler became coping mechanisms. He wasn't just fighting for titles, he was fighting for control, using the intensity of a manufactured feud to channel his inner turmoil. Think about the cruelty of the mind games he played against Duran and the lengthy, deliberate disrespect he showed Hagler. These were not the acts of a calm, centered athlete. They were the actions of a volatile man who needed that extreme, emotional motivation to push himself back from retirement and into the danger zone. His internal conflict with addiction and fame amplified his animosity, turning competitive challenges into threats. Leonard himself needed to feel tough, and the best way to prove it was to break the spirits of the toughest men alive. The truth is, Leonard's greatest rivalry was never with another boxer. It was with his own demons. Understanding this hidden war is essential because it allows us to weigh the final question: who did he truly hate? Was it the man who threatened his pride, Duran, or the man who threatened his legitimacy, Hagler? The only reason these two rivalries were so intense was because the fire was already burning inside Sugar Ray Leonard himself. We now have all the pieces to answer that ultimate question by summarizing the impact each rivalry had on Leonard's soul and determining which man was the true object of his most profound contempt. After examining the three great feuds and the internal demons that fueled them, we have reached the moment of truth. To answer who Sugar Ray Leonard truly hated the most, we must weigh the evidence left by each rivalry. The answer lies in the stability and the nature of the emotional damage each fight inflicted. The rivalry with Thomas Hearns can be eliminated immediately. As we've established, that feud evolved into respect, friendship, and mutual admiration. It was a professional challenge, a show of skill, but not a contest of hatred. Hearns was Leonard's greatest opponent, but not his most despised. The true contest for the title of most hated is between Roberto Duran and Marvelous Marvin Hagler. The Duran argument is built on public humiliation. Duran was the aggressor, the man who openly ridiculed Leonard's image and forced him into his first professional loss. Leonard's hatred for Duran was intense, fueled by a searing need for revenge. When Leonard won the rematch with the No Mas victory, he didn't just regain a title. He inflicted the ultimate act of professional and psychological destruction. Leonard broke Duran's spirit and earned his deepest form of satisfaction. This was hatred in its purest form, a desire to crush a man who had shamed him. The Hagler argument, however, is rooted in something far deeper: legitimacy. Hagler represented everything Leonard was not: the hard road, the ignored champion, the constant grind. Leonard's scorn for Hagler was less about emotion and more about professional disdain. Hagler constantly questioned Leonard's toughness and worthiness. When Leonard finally faced Hagler, the hatred was amplified by the pressure of proving the Golden Boy persona was authentic. Leonard's controversial win, orchestrated through mind games and tactical genius, shattered Hagler's career so completely that he never fought again. Hagler's quiet fury and refusal to ever forgive or acknowledge Leonard speaks volumes about the depth of the champion's pain Leonard was responsible for creating. While the Duran rivalry was about fire and revenge, the Hagler rivalry was about ice and irreversible betrayal. Duran quit, but Duran also eventually reconciled with Leonard. Hagler, however, retired in disgust, choosing silence over even the briefest moment of shared post-fight cordiality. Based on the permanent, unresolved nature of the conflict and the personal, career-ending devastation inflicted, the object of Leonard's deepest, most persistent professional scorn was Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Hagler was the one man Leonard knew he had to beat to validate his entire career, and the cost of that validation was a bitterness that lasted the rest of Hagler's life. Leonard successfully played the mind game better than anyone, proving his boxing savvy while simultaneously crushing the heart of the champion he felt threatened his place in history. Now that we know the men Leonard hated, let's wrap up this incredible era with a look at how these four great kings, these ultimate rivals, influenced the sport forever. The era of the four kings, Leonard, Duran, Hearns, and Hagler, was a perfect storm of talent and hostility. But the long-term legacy of these intense rivalries offers a final lesson. Years after the gloves came off, the personal feuds largely cooled, though never in the same way. The fiery hatred Leonard harbored for Roberto Duran eventually mellowed into a form of mutual respect. The two former enemies, who had nearly destroyed each other emotionally and physically, found a path to cordiality. They appear on stages together, sharing war stories and recognizing the pivotal role each played in the other's legend. Similarly, the rivalry with Thomas Hearns settled into genuine friendship, a testament to two warriors who simply respected the danger they survived together. But the one relationship that truly underscored the depth of the resentment was with Marvelous Marvin Hagler. That feud remained permanently unresolved. Hagler never forgave Leonard for the controversial 1987 decision, feeling he was robbed by the system and the very man he despised. Hagler chose to walk away, retiring rather than granting Leonard the satisfaction of a rematch, cementing his belief that Leonard was not worth another moment of his time. This ultimate rejection of the boxing world, driven by the pain of the Leonard loss, stands as the symbol of the personal scorn that defined the era. In the end, Leonard's rivalries, the hatred he felt for Duran and Hagler, and the respect he earned from Hearns weren't just personal episodes. They were the engine that created the greatest era in modern boxing. They forced Leonard to be more than just a talented boxer. They forced him to become a ruthless, psychological warrior. These battles were fought on two fronts, in the ring and in the mind. Sugar Ray Leonard's career is defined by the deep personal rivalries that pushed him to greatness, forever cementing his legacy as a master of psychological warfare. Sugar Ray Leonard, now 69, is a highly sought-after motivational speaker and philanthropist. He runs the Sugar Ray Leonard Foundation for Juvenile Diabetes Research and openly shares his journey, including past struggles, to inspire audiences, cementing his legacy outside the ring. Have you seen any of Sugar Ray's fights? What do you think about his story? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Is defined by the deep personal rivalries that pushed him to greatness, forever cementing his legacy as a master of psychological warfare. Sugar Ray Leonard, now 69, is a highly sought-after motivational speaker and philanthropist. He runs the Sugar Ray Leonard Foundation for Juvenile Diabetes Research and openly shares his journey, including past struggles, to inspire audiences, cementing his legacy outside the ring. Have you seen any of Sugar Ray's fights? What do you think about his story? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next video.